Each year in the U.S., nearly 1 in 9 babies are born preterm, meaning less than 37 weeks of pregnancy or more than 3 weeks prior to the expected due date. That's nearly 500,000 babies every year born too early in this country. Here to discuss preterm birth and provide guidance to women who may be at risk for preterm birth is Dr. Aaron Deutsch from Boynton Beach, Florida, who is a specialist in maternal fetal medicine. Also, coming up a little bit later, we're going to meet 2 moms, very special ladies, who are going to share their personal experiences delivering a baby prematurely. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. I think this is important. And you know, I'm the first one to say both my daughters were born 2 weeks early. And I got to tell you, I was frightened, I was scared, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later, but I can relate to preterm birth. But let's first talk about it. What is it?
So first off, preterm birth, we have to understand what term birth is. And when a woman's given her due date of 40 weeks gestational age is full term, term is considered 37 to 40 weeks. So if a woman delivers earlier than 37 weeks, that's preterm. And the reason why it's so important is preterm birth is the leading cause of neonatal death, also associated with a high risk of medical complications, and there's a financial impact on the healthcare system with that as well. And what most people don't realize is how common preterm birth is. It occurs in almost 12% of all pregnancies.
That high?
Yes, absolutely.
And why is that?
Well, nobody knows for
Nobody
sure,
knows.
of course, and there's multiple risk factors that can go into that as well.
So the goal is 40 weeks or full term. So what can happen, doctor, when a baby's delivered preterm?
Well, first off, you're absolutely right, and that's what I think women should focus on is a goal of 39 to 40 weeks. And there's multiple medical studies that show that babies born after 39 weeks have the best outcomes.
Okay.
But if a baby is born premature, there's a host of medical problems associated with that. Essentially, every organ system in the baby can be adversely affected. Now, the earlier a baby delivers, the worse the risks and the longer term problems, but anything from the brain, the lungs, the intestines, infections, long stays in the hospital. So the goal is to try to stay pregnant as long as possible to your due date to minimize these risks.
So let's say right now, you know, I'm sure we have so many women out there who are pregnant and they wonder, well, are there any risk factors that I should be aware of? Are there?
Absolutely. Now, many preterm births are unexpected and can't plan for, but there are specific risk factors that are associated with a higher risk of preterm birth. And one of the most important things for all pregnant ladies is to establish their prenatal care early with their healthcare provider, get in with them, have a discussion about their medical history, their obstetric history, to find out if they have any of these risk factors. And one of the biggest ones would be having delivered a baby preterm previously.
Okay.
So having had a baby preterm puts you in about a 15 to 30% risk of having that recur in the next pregnancy. If you've had 2 babies preterm in a row, your risk can be as high as 60% in the next pregnancy.
Wow.
So very high. And that's probably your biggest risk factor. Other risk factors, things like multiple gestations, which would be twins or triplets, cervical problems, a short cervix, certain medical complications, and then there's socioeconomic factors that kind of play into it also.
Now, I got to tell you, when it does happen, when there is a preterm birth, I've seen such progress, remarkable progress, especially in the neonatal intensive care unit. Let's talk about that progress today.
Sure. And I would say some of the biggest accomplishments in the medical field have been caring for these premature babies. And it's true, babies are born at earlier gestational ages, surviving longer than they ever had before, and the capabilities in the neonatal intensive care have improved to the point that the medical problems are much less now. I would say the key point, though, is there are still problems, even now, with the capabilities that they have. And some of these can be lifelong. So the goal would be to have the baby maturing inside in the uterus, getting bigger, developing close to that due date after 39 weeks to minimize any risk of having to use the great facilities in a neonatal intensive care unit.
So quick question here, in your opinion, do many pregnant moms know that their baby's growth and development continues even after the latter part of their pregnancy?
Yeah, I would say most people tend to have a general appreciation that it's better to stay pregnant as long as possible, but I think what's underestimated is the risks even having a baby several weeks early and the impact that can have. Now, also importantly, there are certain indications where babies are purposely delivered preterm, and that would be called an indicated preterm birth, where there's a medical complication, mom has diabetes or high blood pressure, there's a problem with the growth or development of the baby, a placental problem. These rare instances, we would prefer to deliver a baby preterm. But aside from these occurrences, the goal for every woman should be getting to that 39, 40-week time frame.
And you just hit it with me. What happened to me was my heart rate shot up, Samantha's heart rate shot up, and the doctor said, we got to go in. And that's why they delivered her. All right, stay right there, doctor, because when we come back, we're going to have 2 moms, and they're going to share their personal story with delivering their child preterm. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back. Joining me now are two moms, Kate and Lynn, both mothers of children born prematurely. And adding his medical expertise to our discussion this morning, Dr. Aaron Deutsch, a maternal fetal medicine specialist. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining me. Kate, let me start with you. I know your son Gabriel was born 5 weeks early. Tell me about that.
Yes, I had a normal pregnancy up until 34 weeks. My water broke.
Wow.
Totally unexpectedly. And I was admitted to the hospital and had him 8 days later at 35 weeks, which is 5 weeks too early. And I was totally unprepared for that. I didn't know anything about it. And my expectations were really kind of shattered as far as how my delivery was going to go. I was expecting a really joyful time, and it was really serious. I didn't even get to hold him right away. After he was born, they kind of whisked him away, and the extra NICU doctors had to check him out, make sure he was all right.
Only imagine at that moment your fear and just wondering, now what?
Holding my breath, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Lynn, tell me your story, please, with your son, Lamar, right?
Yes, Lamar. When I was pregnant with Lamar, I went to the doctor for my regular visit, and I was telling her about these pains I was experiencing. And she told me, no, those are contractions. So she sent me over to labor and delivery. And I got a little excited seeing the little crib in the room with me. And I thought, my son is going to come early. This is a great thing. But then she warned me that if he was born this early, he would end up going to NICU. Eventually, he was born 4 weeks too early.
Doctor, I'm hearing these two stories. They're quite common, typical circumstances?
Absolutely. Things that typical obstetrician would deal with on a daily or weekly basis is stories just like these. And you can see how it really kind of turns the life of the family upside down. So certainly things that commonly happen here, and having a preterm birth can really change things.
Kate, I was telling the doctor earlier, I don't know if you heard, but my children came 2 weeks early. For me, that was just, I was a wreck. Tell me about your emotions at that moment.
It was definitely scary for me. Once I kind of was clued into this is a serious situation, I was just totally unprepared for that emotion. I wasn't expecting that at all.
But so much progress in the hospitals today, and everything worked out well.
Yes, yes. My son didn't have to spend any time in the NICU, which my husband and I were so grateful for.
Thank goodness. And Lynn, your emotions at that moment when they told you Lamar's coming?
When Lamar got here, he seemed perfectly fine, and I was very excited. I thought I would be able to take him home. But while I was in recovery, he started having issues holding his temperature, and being 4 weeks too early, he wasn't able to suck quite well. So he ended up spending 19 days in the NICU. It was really challenging. We were excited to take him home, but instead had to spend all that time in the hospital. And it was, not the experience that you want for your first child.
And doctor, let's be honest. I mean, having a child is stressful. And after you deliver, there's so many changes in the body. I can only imagine when you have a preemie, it's even more.
Absolutely, certainly. A full-term healthy newborn is stressful enough.
Exactly.
And then dealing with the questions of the health of your baby, the consequences of having a baby preterm, visiting your baby in the hospital rather than coming home with you. So huge, huge stressors, not to mention a financial impact. Medical bills add up of having a baby in the NICU, and people don't realize the stress that could have on the family, certainly.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your story. I am so glad both children are doing fine, and they're beautiful and wonderful, and we're going to have more? We're going to have more kids?
Hopefully.
I'm done. Doctor, any closing thoughts for anybody out there who could be, carrying a child right now, thinking of having one?
I would say the first thing, which I mentioned previously, is most importantly is getting in early to see your healthcare provider, determining if you have risk factors for preterm birth, particularly if you've had a prior baby born preterm, the importance of letting them know. And then the other thing which I think is really important is the signs and symptoms of preterm labor, which certainly can lead to preterm birth. So if a woman's having contractions, bleeding, leaking water like her water broke, let your healthcare provider know early to get in to be evaluated.
Thank you so much for your time, doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Great information. And ladies, again, God bless you and your children.
Thank you.
And if you're pregnant or planning on becoming or know someone who is, you can visit us at thebalancingact.com for additional information on today's topic. And get social as always. Share with us your thoughts, concerns, or experiences. Log on to Facebook /The Balancing Act Fans.